Thank you all for coming. Merci d'être venu. Si je peux poser la question, combien de vous sont de Montréal? Beaucoup, beaucoup, beaucoup. Combien? Who's from Toronto? Who's from Toronto?
Many people.
Okay, how many from Ottawa? Oh, what have I missed? What other cities?
No, that's right.
Calgary?
Those we don't have here. We have
Yes.
representation, but actually we have, I guess, one person. From
Well,
but not directly.
Okay, I know how difficult it is for you to get here. Believe me, you've given up time, work, it's expense. Somebody had an accident on the way here. It's extremely difficult for you to come. And thank you very much for coming today. You know, I was thinking, Raymond has said a lot to you. Erwin has said a lot too. And what is there left for me to say? That I thought I'll leave out my talk, what they've said, and I realized I'd be leaving out most of what I was going to say. And I know you're standing. You've been standing. How long have they been standing? How long? A couple of hours?
Yeah.
40 years you've been standing. Well, look, and is there anybody here who doesn't have a victim of the regime in their family? I don't see one person?
No.
Doesn't have.
No.
So, all right, how many of you do have family victims of the regime? Everybody's hand is up?
Many.
Well,
The majority.
the majority. And it's one of the most hideous regimes in the world, as we know. And you've heard very eloquently from Erwin and from Raymond what's happening. He has ordered me, I have to say something, because, why did you order me that I have to say? Anyway, look, 400 executions this year alone, Erwin mentioned that. A dozen political prisoners at Goldhard Dasht prison in Karajev are on a hunger strike. You all know that. They were put into a new part of the prison which is described as being suffocating. They are held in cells with windows covered by metal sheets. As you know, they're deprived of access to drinking water. They're not allowed to take their personal belongings and even medications with them. They're barred from family visits, and they're denied access to telephones. That is a microcosm of the present regime in Tehran. Thank goodness the regime's human rights record has been condemned every year since 1980, led, I'm happy to say, by Canada, of different governments in Canada. You all know the 30,000 political prisoners were massacred, and how many? These are all in the massacre too?
They were all in the massacre. They're just a sample of their pictures.
Oh, these are just a sample.
30,000 pictures, but a sample of them.
Okay. Ayatollah Khomeini and his death committee, I think both my colleagues spoke about that. But you might find this of interest. Ahmad Jannati, the head of Tehran's Assembly of Experts, in a recent interview regarding the so-called trials, admitted, quote, "We were instructed to become judges, but we were beginners, 0 kilometers. We didn't know anything about judging and had not studied law." Can you imagine? We weren't educated, but we were familiar with the revolution and Islamic issues. It's hard to believe. And you know, some of these trials lasted as short a time as a minute or two. And we all know that Canada's Parliament unanimously passed that motion on June the 5th, honoring the memory of the 1988 victims and establishing tomorrow as a day of solidarity with the prisoners in Iran. And the motion also cited that it was a crime against humanity. If that isn't a crime against humanity, I don't know what is. Now, finally, the founding instruments of the International Criminal Court and various UN resolutions require that crimes against humanity be investigated whenever they're discovered. There's no statute of limitations on crimes against humanity. I was a prosecutor for 10 years. I should know something about that. The UN General Assembly should take up action against this particular crime. Canada's representatives through the various agencies of the UN, the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, and the new, and I might say spectacular, High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Hussein, should all advocate formation without delay of an independent committee to investigate the '88 massacre. The committee should, among other things, collect all the data about the victims, about the tragedies of their death, and in order to seek justice for all. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, David. Now, we have a number of statements from some of the MPs who were not able to come because the House was not sitting, but they sent messages of support and solidarity with the demands of the gathering today, and I will read to you later on a couple of those messages to you. But we have also a very good friend of ours who have been with us, who has been with us in a number of occasions on many things, including in our great gathering in Paris twice, I believe. Fred Litwin, who has been struggling in a number of fronts, and we are very happy to have him here and say a few words. Fred.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, you, everybody here, you might think there's what could be worse than the horrendous thugs who run the country of Iran, who massacred these 30,000 people, who continue to put people in prison, who jail their political opponents. What could be worse? I'll tell you, there is something that is far worse than the Iranian regime, and that's the silence of the Western world. The Western world is silent. It was silent in 1988. It's silent now. It's deafening, the silence. That is a bigger crime than the horrific torture being meted out in prisons across Iran. And you know what? This is not an issue for just Iranian Canadians or Iranian diaspora. This is an issue for all Canadians. I am a Jewish Canadian. I'm here because this issue is important for everybody, not just Iranians. And so let's be clear. We must stand up for freedom, liberty, and democracy. And this regime must go to the ash bin of history as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much. So we'll continue on with our regular programs and later on, I guess representative of some of the Canadian associations will read to you some of their statements, as well as the statements by some of the Member of Parliament who have sent messages of solidarity. I will read it to you in a few minutes. Thank you.